I'm pretty sure that I will never forget the night that Hurricane Sandy went through the mid-Atlantic. I was living in Washington, D.C., or just outside of it in Alexandria, so we weren't hurt too badly in terms of the physical damage of the storm. But there was a metaphorical storm that night gathering in my life that I still think of often and that certainly shaped me. I was working in a congregation. I'd been there for about 6 months. This was my first job out of seminary. And the night of that hurricane, as we listened to the wind and the rain batter our apartment, I got an email from the rector of that congregation saying that he would be leaving in a couple of months' time. I had never been on a church staff during a leadership transition, but even 28-year-old Kyle knew that this was going to be a challenging experience, and indeed it was. We lost a rector of many years who'd been a wonderful source of stability and reform and growth in the congregation, and shortly thereafter we lost the associate rector who had been so key to those years as well. And as so often happens in this human life, as we lost these people, these things that were important to us, we found that we ourselves were lost as well. And if you have had the experience of being lost, physically or metaphorically, you know that it can often be unpleasant. It feels like the ground has been pulled out from under us. We lose our foundation, our stability, our sense of connectedness, and that the world is a reliable place that we can make good decisions and move through in a safe and sensible way. Even more importantly, I think part of what we can lose is our sense of identity, of purpose, of meaning. If you've been really lost in your life, perhaps it was hard to feel like it was even worth going on with whatever it is that brings you joy, that brings you meaning. And what can happen instead is that, as we say, we start to base our whole personality on just one thing. Our whole source of meaning and purpose becomes just one thing, that is relieving ourselves of the discomfort of these feelings of being lost. And so against that backdrop, we encounter a story like this one, a lost and found story. And I think it can be really tempting to identify strongly with these finding characters in the story, with the shepherd who seeks the sheep at all costs, with the woman who tears her house apart, uses precious lamp oil to find the coin. It is easy to hear this story and to say that the moral of the story is that we should go and do likewise, lay it all out on the line to find what we have lost. And it is sometimes ambiguous in a parable, who is God and who is us. And it is sometimes unambiguous in a parable that Jesus says at the end of it, go and do likewise. But that is not the case in this story. We know who the sheep is, we know who the coin is, and it is us. The meaning of this parable, I truly believe, is that God is always seeking us, that we, as human beings, again and again will have the experience of being lost in the wilderness, of being rudderless, of needing to be found by those gracious and loving arms of God. And so I think there is a rather annoying lesson here for us in how we might respond to this story, because I want to go out and do something, and I think the moral of the story is that we have to reckon with what it feels like to be lost. If you have been lost, say, while driving down the road, perhaps with a spouse who knows before you do that you are lost, you know deep down, though it might take a while to truly reckon with it, that keeping that tight grip on the wheel and believing that each turn that you make or each hill that you crest is going to be the one where you figure out where your dot is on that little map. And the best thing that you can do for the reality of the situation is recognize that you are lost and come to grips with that reality. This is often painful. It is painful in this kind of funny and cliche experience of being lost on a road trip. But it is painful in the landscape of human experience and the many ways that we find ourselves confused and lost and broken in this world. And I would suggest to us that if we do not feel lost, if we do not feel like the rug has been pulled out from under us and that deep meaning and purpose that we have clung to in various ways as human beings, as Christians, as residents of the Metro Chicago area or the U.S., we can go on and on and on, but with all that is happening in the world this week, this month, this year, this decade, if we can't admit that we are lost, we gotta take our hands off the wheel a little bit and really reckon with what's there. And it is not comfortable and it is not fun, but I do think that it is a first faithful response to the kind of human reality that Jesus is getting at in a story like this. So it is worth going through the exercise of naming for ourselves, how do I feel lost? What do I think I have lost? What do we think we have lost? And really exploring that experience a bit and grappling with the painful realities associated with it. And if we do that, I do believe that we are people with agency in this world, co-creators with the God who is seeking us and ever longing to find us. And I do think there are some things we can do to get ourselves found, as it were, or at least to cooperate with that. But it requires taking our hand off the wheel a little bit. It requires this reflection and grappling with the difficult reality. And then, as it were, what we can do is start to pay attention for the signs that things could be changing. We can trust that heavenly search party is out there somewhere, and that if we are alert to the signs around us, we might know when to fire off that flare gun. We might know that it's worth spelling out lost, with stones on the beach, hoping for that flyover. We might set our watch for ships on the horizon. If we know that we are lost, we can then start to be more and more attentive to the ways that God, the God of our salvation, is seeking us and longing to find us. So in that congregation that I was a part of years ago, we certainly lost ourselves in the midst of that transition. And God found us by helping us to be found by our neighbors. For all of his many wonderful traits, that rector, I'll call him Father Adam, was not necessarily someone who was going to embrace some of what was alive in the church in those days. This was in the very beginning of the Ashes to Go movement, and this was a sort of hyper-traditional congregation. And in the years following his departure, we did a really vulnerable thing, and we put on our silly vestments and grabbed a boatload of incense, and we went and stood on the corner by the subway stop, and we were found by our community in a really profound way. And I watched as that community regained a sense of themselves and their identity and their mission in the neighborhood, as they said, hey, people are resonating with this message of love that we are sharing. Like, we might look funny, and we might have rituals and observances that are a little bit puzzling to our neighbors, but they are also seeing us, and they are saying, thank you for being here. Thank you for your witness and your ministry and your message of love. And over time, I watched that congregation really get its feet under itself and say, like, we are valuable to this neighborhood. We are valued by this neighborhood. We are loved. And that sense of healing and repair and ultimately energy for service and mission in the neighborhood was a profound experience, I think, of what it means to be found by the God of our salvation, to get caught up in the work of the Spirit and realize that we are being shown the way out of the wilderness and into something that is life-giving and love-spreading. And so while it is not fun to contemplate our lostness, and it is not fun to have to trust in these promises that God is out there somewhere looking for us, and perhaps the best we can do is trust that we will be found. I put my hope and find great meaning and encouragement in the final line of both of the parables in this story. That not only is God searching for us, not only is God longing for us as a shepherd, the sheep, as this woman, the coin that she is searching for. Not only does God want to find us, but when God finds us, there is rejoicing in the heavens. So not only are the promises of God deliverance, return, redemption, salvation, this embrace of God's everlasting arms, but ultimately God rejoices in finding this thing of great value, this sheep, this coin, which is us. Amen.